For me, the act of cinema itself is political. It's a statement. You make a statement. I'm not in a hurry to make films. I'm only trying to make films that will keep me excited, that will teach me new things, and that will take me to new places in terms of the mindscape. Unraveling something about new about myself. If I can learn something about myself, then I definitely feel the viewer also will learn something about himself in the process of watching the film.
എല്ലാ പ്രേക്ഷകർക്കും ദ ക്യൂവിലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം. ഇന്ന് നമ്മോടൊപ്പം ഉള്ളത് സംവിധായകൻ വെട്രിമാരനാണ്. വെട്രി സർ, വെൽക്കം ടു ദ ക്യൂ.
Thank you.
So, 2 decades back, during a final semester at Loyola College, director Balu Mahendra came there to conduct a seminar on filmmaking. And after attending the talk, you decided that this is the man from whom I'm going to learn filmmaking. And opting out from college, you started your career as an assistant director under Balu Mahendra sir, who was then working on Kadai Neram. From that time till the release of your debut film Polladavan in 2007, you have said before it was a period of learning, struggle, and keeping your passion for filmmaking alive. How that phase shaped your understanding of cinema?
It was not my last semester. I think it was the third semester when Sir came. He was visiting faculty at that point. So he used to conduct seminars once in 2 years, like 2 workshops, not seminars, workshops. So I was part of it. And then as he was talking, I was drawn to him, the ease with which he was trying to communicate cinema. For anybody, like people who attended it, I was not a film major, but when I was there, I thought that, okay, this is an art that I could learn. Like this is something that I could acquire. This is something that will keep me, this is something that will push me further to understand life and people. So these things were my thoughts when I was sitting and listening to his lecture. Then once it was done, I wanted to work with him. And then Father Rajanayagam, who was the HOD of Visual Communication Loyola College, so he only sent me to meet Balu Mahendra sir. Since then, I never had a second thought, because when that time he was not working on Kadai Neram. So I met him 97 December 26th first. Yeah. And Kadai Neram was 99 August we started shooting, and then 2000, the whole of 2000, we were working on it. So the first 2 years, that was the most crucial learning period for me. That's when I learned what patience is all about. Just to sit. Every morning we used to go. He will be there. Balu Mahendra sir will be there. Muthukumar and I, Muthukumar lyricist, he and I were working at that point. So every morning we will go at 10 o'clock till 1 o'clock. We'll be sitting and talking. So we were in a hurry. Like I wanted, when I went and joined Balu Mahendra sir, I told sir, 1,000 days. From the day we start shoot, 1,000 days I'll work with you, and then I'll start making films. So I was counting for the 1,000 days to happen. And I was in such a hurry. Every day we were expecting something new to happen, some new project to come. We go and he will start talking about a film that he watched when he was 10 years old. Then he will talk about how it was done. Then he will start, like he will say, I got this DVD of this film, let's go and watch. Those days it was more of LD, Laserdisc, big ones.
Yeah.
We'll sit and watch the film, and he will say, okay, let's talk about this film tomorrow. Then the next day we have to go discuss the film. And then he'll give me a book and say, okay, read this book, write a synopsis and bring it. So chapter-wise synopsis I have to write. He will take the synopsis, throw it away, and then give me another new book. So he was teaching me patience. So the first thing is to learn as a filmmaker is patience, I think. I think it was Fellini's quote when he asked, he told that, I wait for an idea to come. and then I wait for the idea to become a script, and then I wait for the idea to be made into a film. I get a producer, then get actors, and then I wait for the film to be made, and then I wait for an idea. So the process of waiting is very, very, very crucial and very important for every creative person, especially in as a filmmaker. Especially as a filmmaker, your need to wait is more, because your creativity is not only dependent on you. You need to have a producer, you need to have an actor, you need to have a release date, proper release date. All of these things fall in place. So for a filmmaker, waiting is more important, and through the process of waiting, not leaving the focus, staying focused is very important. In between, I worked with Kadir sir also, director Kadir.
Yeah.
After Kadai Neram, I worked with him, and then I again came back to work with Balu Mahendra sir. So these things have taught me so much about not being in a hurry to make a film. I'm not in a hurry to make films. I'm only trying to make films that will keep me excited, that will teach me new things, and that will take me to new places in terms of the mindscape. Unraveling something new about myself. If I can learn something about myself, then I definitely feel the viewer also will learn something about himself in the process of watching the film.
So, Vadachennai is my personal favorite among your films, and you started writing Vadachennai back in 2003, and it was always your dream project. In a previous interview, you said that Polladavan and Adugalum were sort of spin-offs from that universe. So, how Vadachennai influenced you as a person and as a filmmaker, and how the world you created in Vadachennai, that film, influenced your other films?
I actually started this journey of knowing about Vadachennai when my colleague, my friend and colleague who worked with Kadir sir, he lost his bike. He lives in Ennore. He lost his bike, and he through his friends, he tried to trace his bike back. So his shocking experiences, every day he used to come and say, Vetri, this happened. I couldn't believe that they buried the bikes. There are 50 bikes buried in the sand. I was shocked, and it was so scary. He said, so many informations he gave, and I thought, okay, this could be an interesting film. But then before I could start writing, my friends and I were talking that we said that people are going to say that this is a lift from bicycle thieves. That's why I always say comparing Polladavan to bicycle thieves is a disgrace to bicycle thieves. I always say that. So we started wanting to know more about that world, and then so Andrew himself took me to meet some people in his area where I could talk and try to know more about this. So when I met someone, he started talking about various things, and he was part of a group, and whatever that he said made me realize that where I started was irrelevant. So I just left that bike world behind, and then I started going behind whatever he has to say. And he himself was a scriptwriter. If he had not been part of that gang, he would have definitely been a scriptwriter.
Yeah.
After 2 meetings, he said, okay, it's so hard for me to tell you all these things. Let me write it and give you. So he wrote it to me in one small notebook, I think 100 pages, 80 pages notebook, and he gave it to me. And the way he had written itself was so fine. He would put two characters, two opposite, two people from opposite gangs being together in one scene. And then there is a note where he had written, I will tell you later how these two became friends. So he was narrating it as a script writer, and it was really good that I met him, and he shared his experiences, and he gave me a historic perspective to the world and the underworld activity that happens there. So it was so big, it was so huge. It had politics, it had so many things that I could not write in a film. Those things could not be made into a film. So he gave me so much information, and that made me think more. And it was like getting into a War and Peace world, that kind of space where everything will have relevance to everybody's life. At least one character is someone whom we have met in real life, or someone whom we have heard of. So many things were there in it, and then I started like making a chronological order of whatever that he had narrated. I was trying to make an order out of the whole incident, like so many things that he had told, and I was trying to make a story out of whatever he has told. So what then, as I was making the story, there were certain very nice elements that had to be left out. So when I left those things out, and then I realized that this story needs a big budget and I cannot do it. So now, after 1 year of working on this, then I revisit the bike story that I wanted to tell.
Yeah.
Then, now my whole understanding of that story changed because of whatever knowledge that he had given me, shared with me. So I brought in the Selvam and the gang feud and how they work, and they have their own ethics, they have their own principles, and they live by it. All of those things came into the film. Then it became a different one, and then it got made. And Adukalam's mentor-student relationship was supposed to be part of Guna and Anbu's relationship. Earlier, my original version did not have Rajan was not a big character. He did not have that much space. It was more about Guna and Anbu, and the loyalty and the betrayal and the relationship, the love and hate between each other. That was the whole idea. But when I was writing Adukalam, unintentionally, I was picking up the emotions from there, and then we did the film. When I wanted to do Vada Chennai, we had explored that particular aspect as much as possible in Adukalam. We cannot go near it. So then we were trying to work on other aspects, other ways of looking at it. And then my original version of Vada Chennai starts with a 13-year-old boy and his father. So the 13-year-old boy does not have any respect for the father because he's a failure in life. Whatever he sees about the father is not something that he could feel proud of. He's a father who's not even able to buy him a football. He's a failure in life. That's the kind of father he sees. Then as the film progresses, the boy realizes why the father is like that and what he has done. So this resonates in Asuran also. Yeah. So, like, even after making Vada Chennai, I have something left of Vada Chennai to continue in my other films also. So that's, for me, a world on its own, and I have so much story to tell, and it's growing every day. And I don't know when I'm going to sit and work on the sequel. It's time consuming. The scale is big. The budget is more. So I think we have to wait a little more to get it going.
Yeah. Visarnai was based on M. Chandrakumar's Lockup, which narrates the author's experiences of police brutality he faced in 1983, and the film was released in 2015. 5 years later now, we know that the reality remains more or less the same. When the brutal custodial deaths of P. Jayaraj and J. Bennix happened in Thuthukudi, there were several writings on social media and elsewhere about your film Visarnai. In your opinion, as a filmmaker, how crucial films are in shaping and influencing the public discourse?
Films are the ways to reach the people, common man. So for the common man to get into a space where they talk about something, it needs to be part of their film culture. Yeah. So it has come to that. Of course, novels are there. They are rich in content. Every part of the world has good literary work happening. We have good writings here in Tamil, Malayalam, everywhere. It's happening. All over, it's happening. But for the common man to get a grasp of something like, an issue or something that they need to know, films are the easiest way to reach the common man. So I feel films, especially in Tamil, have been uh, determining the political discourse and social discussions of the times. Like Dravidian movement got a strong hold. Of course, they all were great orators, but they used an iconic star to take forward their electoral agendas.
Yeah.
All MGR's films had that in them. And then Kalaignar was a great writer. Anna was a writer. All of them were writing and putting forward the kind of discussion that they wanted to create in the society.
Yeah.
So right now, I feel that the need and the possibility is more of that happening in today's world in all in all languages. Tamil is becoming actively or vocally political in pointing out what the filmmaker feels is right or wrong. Mm-hmm. And that resonates. See, one Visaranai has been a point of discussion at every stage. The Justice, Honorable Justice P.N. Prakash, the one who put CBCID onto the inquiry of the custodial deaths of Jayaraj and Phoenix. Yeah. When Visaranai was released, he watched the film and he called me and he asked me to arrange a show for 120 magistrate students of his. So he made the magistrates come and watch the film and said, this is how you need to deal with a person who is brought for custody. You should ask the question. And he made Chandrakumar address the magistrates. Chandrakumar got very emotional, and it was a film that made itself. And the pain Chandrakumar and so many millions like Chandrakumar resonates. The pain that they've undergone resonates in through the film, and it has left a deep mark in everybody. That's why when something of this sort happens, it is being referred. That film is being referred. So that way, there are a lot of films that are being made where Pariyerum Perumal is there. That started a major discussion and debate. See, whether, and there are other films also. Counter films are being made for Dalit narratives now in Tamil. So those are also becoming talking points. Good or bad, there is a discussion happening through films. I feel that's a good thing. And then we are able to understand the power of the medium. If it's with a good, right person, then it can definitely influence the common man, educate the common man towards equality, tolerance, everything.
Right. Some of your films, including Asuran, upcoming Vadi Vasal, you're adapting Ajnabi, are based on literary text, novels or books. So while reading a literary text as a writer and filmmaker, how do you get to a point where you decide that this particular literary text can be adapted to the visual medium? Can you explain that process?
Okay. See, Bala Mahendra sir used to say, it's so hard to translate a classic literary work and make it into a classic film. We have so many examples for that. A classic novel not becoming as good as it was as a novel, when you try to make it into a film. So he used to say, when a novel reaches a classic state, it has already attained its best medium and the best creative talent to deal with it. That has reached the medium and the writer who could make the most out of it in the best possible way. Now, when you're trying to make it, you have to go to the top and bring it down. So this is one point he says. And then the second one he says is, see, the the literary aesthetics or the classic literary nature of the novel is not, or is not primarily needed for the filmmaker, the script writer. He needs more of the drama, whatever that could be visually conveyed.
Yeah.
There are some, yeah, there are some masters who can, who can make the viewer be the co-creator of the work. Not always it happens. So it's very, very important we have that in mind. We should have the courage to let go of the literary finesse of a work and then go for the basic skeleton. They say that Hitchcock buys the novel rights of a novel by just reading the blurb. He'll read the synopsis at the back wrap and say, "Okay, let's buy this book." Then he will read it, forget the book, and then he'll start writing something else. So the blurb has the basic irony of the story, and the irony in script writing is essential. For a novel, you can take your own time, and sometimes you can even write without having an irony. Like it just flows. But for writing a script, irony is very important. So these are the things that we take into mind. And sometimes you feel that when you read a book, you feel that this is a world that I could have learned or explored without the help of this book. But then now someone has done it. I would like to be part of this world. How do I be part of it other than just reading it? Okay, let me try to recreate it. That's the greed of the scriptwriter and the filmmaker, to be part of a world that they could have created without that also. Or sometimes it opens up a new space in your head. Like you feel, okay, this is something I didn't know. Okay, let me try to take it to the world and to my world and say that, okay, these are things that I enjoyed reading this book. I'm trying to make this as a film. If you can enjoy it, you enjoy it. Or there is so much of pain in a world that we need to let our people know there is so much pain in our life, in our world, and we are unaware of it. Let's take a look at this world. So that also is a reason for us to go for it.
Yeah. French director Robert Guédiguian, he said recently in a symposium conducted by Cineaste that cinema, whether the filmmaker professes it or denies it, is a point of view in a way which humans live. So in that sense, it is always political. So what is political cinema according to you, or how you define political cinema?
For me, the act of cinema itself is political. It's a statement. You make a statement. I agree with him, and I would even say that the act of making a film, the choices you make in the process of making a film, everything is a political statement only. For me, you have an opinion. It could be like, good or bad for the people. Primarily, my thing is like anything that speaks against oppression is good political narrative for me. You could do a film that is exactly opposite to it also, but still, you need to accept it because they are making a political statement as we are making a political statement through films. But it's good to make comment or have an opinion on these things rather than trying to make films apolitical films in the name of apolitical films, supporting oppression. Martin Luther King's quote, like, we'll be remembered, we'll only remember the silence of our friends. So it's like that. No, you say that, and also there is nothing called as middle ground now, at least now. There is no middle ground now. So we have to take a stand, and we need to be clear on what stand we are taking and why we are taking that stand. I think that's what political cinema should be like. You have an opinion, you just express it. Don't try to be apolitical.
Yeah, in Asuran, among other things, you included some scenes which were visual references to the Keeravaiyanmani massacre that happened in 1968, and it's almost 50 years. By doing that, Asuran brought the memories of a significant incident from the past at a time when atrocities against the Dalit community is still a stark reality. So, what was your thought process while including the visual references of the Keeravaiyanmani massacre?
When we incorporated that scene into the narrative, it was to collectively bring in the kind of oppression the Dalit had to undergo over a period of time. It was chronologically, it was anachronic. It was anachronic. Like we were mentioning about DC land also, that and as a protest, as a movement, it did not happen there in Tirunelveli. It happened in Chengalpattu. And around the early 80s, and only it started getting momentum, and 2 people were shot dead also. So we tried to bring that into the narrative. Though it was anachronic, I thought it was my, there's a responsibility to put forth that also in the narrative. And I feel only when we know the history can we find a future that could be, or a future that could avoid what happened in history. So that way, knowing history, remembering history, retelling history is very important. And of course, when I say history, the subaltern narrative, not his story thing.
Yeah.
So.